Again, march to the polls this time to elect governors and members of the State Assembly. Channels Television has got all that covered for you with our team of reporters across the country, covering all the states for all the stories and the announcement of winners. Watch Channels Television's coverage of the 2023 governorship and state houses of assembly elections. Channels Television, a network built on trust.
Welcome back. We still have with us Mr. Mascot Uzokalu, governorship candidate of the APP in Abia State. Yes, very quickly, Mr. Mascot, if you could just answer briefly. If you say that, what happened on Saturday during the presidential election was between the church and the political parties, are you discounting and saying, the issues that form the base of the agitations that also saw results in other states other than core southeastern states? And as well, are you also not also taking into cognizance the fact that the Southeast has voted for other candidates besides those from the Southeast in past presidential elections?
No, I'm not discounting the fact that there are parties that won elections. Um, Even in Abuja, for example, there are candidates who won election who were not even around the election day. The Obi movement, which I give to him, which was blazing, was a movement of ideology of people resenting a lot of the things that happened in the center and believing in Obi. So what we're trying to say is that let nobody believe it to be the same thing, the same movement on Saturday coming. No, people are now going to look at the issues that affect them internally. The Saturday election was one of its kind, which there are places where people did not put up poster. I heard about the place in Abuja where the candidate was not even in the state on the day of the election. He was called back they have won election. So you ask yourself, what happened to those who are campaigning there? So people voted based on that belief, trying to bring a change in the system. Vote for Governor B. So, however, today the elections are over and people are coming back to realization that yes, we need to now look at how do we handle our state, and that's what is important right now. And so, anybody thinking it will be the same Tea Party from last Saturday, last 2 Saturdays ago, will be mistaken.
And we're looking forward to seeing the results on Saturday as we wish you and all the other candidates the very best in the coming governorship election. Mr. Mascot Uzokalu is the governorship candidate of the Action People's Party. I hope I got that correctly. Thank you very much, Mr. Mascot Uzokalu, for your participation on the program. There's more coming as I now hand you over to Abuja.
Well, yes, indeed. Samson Itolo joins us next. He is the Executive Director of Yaga. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today. Now, following or owing partly to what transpired in the presidential elections, there seems to be some sort of probably uncertainty about how this Saturday will go. In fact, when I told some persons about Saturday's election, they were, oh, is it this Saturday? So, but from your perspective, I mean, you're supposed to have been that mindset of elections coming through this Saturday, and then the cases in court, and all of this that is going on. What's going through your mind as to how Saturday is going to play out?
Well, first, we pray Saturday holds because, like you said, there's uncertainty. It's affected even our planning and preparations for the elections. Well, the court said they would issue a ruling this afternoon at 2 p.m. So we'll wait. But whatever the case is, it's our considered opinion that given the situation, perhaps the election should be moved by either 1 week or 2 weeks. Reasons being that if the court delivers a ruling today and it adopts INEC's request, INEC would have less than 3 days to configure the BVAS machines. And the big question is, can the commission do that within these 3 days in such a way that the BVAS machines will be fully configured and ready for deployment on Saturday? So whatever is the case, regardless of how this ruling goes today, we're already in a difficult situation. And so to prevent further logistical issues during the governorship elections, and to the extent that it will also undermine the integrity of those elections, I think it's just in the best interest to reschedule the election, whatever the court says, and stakeholders should adopt the ruling of the court. But as we
That's a situation.
it's a dicey situation.
Because one, I don't think that when we thought about introducing technology, we ever thought that having governorship elections so close to it would also affect the use of the same technology. For instance, the beavers now. I don't think that we thought about a situation whereby parties will go to court and would need to inspect these materials as part of their evidence.
But this is not the first time this is happening. What is just happening is just the consequence and the cost of broken trust. If everything had gone well with the first round of elections, perhaps the parties would have approached this differently. And there are two options available to INEC. The first is, yes, if you're going to reconfigure, subject that particular process to public scrutiny. Be transparent about the configuration and say, okay, if you synchronize all the data, you have them backed up, and the parties can have access to this because that's a critical evidence that they need to advance their case in court. So if INEC is transparent about that entire process, perhaps it might give the parties and the stakeholders comfort that INEC is not onto something untoward towards the management of that data. And the second bit, which is the second option, just move the elections by a week or two, give the parties that opportunity. But INEC also needs time to configure the BVAS machines because this is Wednesday. You have an election on Saturday. And my view is these 3 days, it's not sufficient for INEC to configure all those machines in such a way that they will be fully prepared for deployment on Saturday. So whatever the case is, we're in a very difficult situation.
And because the other thing about that too is, in May, it's looking more like 2 weeks, because given that this is the presidential elections, and if the court needs to meet them halfway, because you never know, they may say, look, the time we need to go through certain things, 1 week may still not cut it. So it's really a tricky one.
The Constitution sets a timeline.
Yeah.
That elections for governorship elections shall hold not earlier than 150 days and not later than 30 days. And so if you count 30 days from May 29th, you'll be somewhere around April 28th. So even if the election were moved by 2 weeks, we're still within the constitutional time frame. And I think that it would help. It gives INEC also an opportunity to properly configure the BVAS machines and make them ready. It also gives the parties the opportunity. And I think that if the courts were going to rule, and this is not being preemptive, it should also be within a reasonable time frame. You cannot give the parties so much time that it would affect, the constitutional time frame for the conduct of those elections.
It's also a dicey one for the political parties. I know that this is not something that the CSOs will be concerned about, but some parties might want to build momentum on what they might think they have already gained, if they did gain something in the presidential elections. I mean, there were some pleasant surprises, or pleasant and unpleasant, and it depends on how you look at it. But upsets that we saw in some area, and some people will say, that some political parties might want to build on the strength of that. I mean, some small parties that we not think could pull their weight, really pull their weight in these elections. So don't you think that could take the wind out of their sail, this postponement of elections?
I think for me, I look at what's in the overall national interest,
okay,
and not partisan interest. And what's in the overall national interest is to consider these issues, that this entire process has to be transparent. And so whatever decision is taken must uphold that principle of transparency to inspire confidence on the stakeholders. And I say this, that we're having this conversation because of the breach of trust and broken trust as a result of the presidential elections. And secondly, it's also INEC's ability to engage with stakeholders. And I wish that, quite frankly, in the last couple of days, the Commission had consulted with stakeholders, political parties, civil society, and media. Bring them to the table. Say, hey, this is the issue that we have. We need to configure these BVAS machines. This is what we will do. There are two options available. One, we can partition the BVAS and in such a way that the data for the presidential election is still stored on the device. But will the stakeholders be confident that if you partition the beavers, it will not lead to any technological issues in the build-up to the governorship election? That's one. Two, to say, okay, we're going to configure these beavers. These beavers machines are in the states. What is this whole configuration? Is to change the date of the election, the type of the election, and then erase the voter accreditation data. So, okay, parties bring your party agents to the INEC offices in those locations. As they pick each beavers machine before the reconfiguration, the party agents will have their tally sheet where they take all these records. These are conversations and consultations should have happened, but it's sad that it's been taken to the court and the court will have to rule on this. But whichever situation we find ourselves, I think it's important that we're mindful that yes, there's still time based on the Constitution, but there's need to continue to inspire confidence on the part of the stakeholders as well as Nigerians.
And that's why they say your problem is not your problem, but how you handle your problem.
Yeah.
So INEC needs to ensure that they don't appear as though they're avoiding questions and engaging, because this is a public institution we're talking about here. Well, thank you for coming on, Samson.
Always a delight. Thanks.
Executive Director of IAGA. Well, that is the show today, but we will be back tomorrow and ensure that we focus on some of these matters and a lot more when we return, looking towards Saturday, whichever way the pendulum swings. Well, that is the show today. We thank you all for watching and see you next time. I'm Chamberlain. So.
And Maokwe Ogun Yusuf, once again, happy International Women's Day.
And from here, happy International Women's Day, and make sure you reflect on all of the issues we've raised today as you make your important choice on Saturday. I am Bukola Samuel Wenimo.
Hey, from all of us, we love our women. Absolutely. Goodbye. Have a great day. I'm Kaido Fuchile.